Thank you very much. And if you are going to continue conversation, if you could please continue it in the hallway. This room echoes and carries, and so it's important that we, if anybody is going to have a discussion, please have it in the hallway. I'm Councilmember Jose Huizar. I've been joined by Councilmember Cedillo and Councilmember Englander. This is the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. We have a quorum, and if we could begin this meeting by going to item number 6, unless he wants to sit down and catch his breath, but we'll go to the director's report first.
Good afternoon, council members. Happy New Year. Mike LeGrand, Director of Planning. We've been having a very robust start of the new year in the planning department, doing much public outreach and engagement. One of the items that we've been working on is continuing to facilitate large developments all across the city. We've been meeting with many downtown developers, seeing some older entitlement projects get re-entitled, changed, and actually built. So we've been working with the building department on trying to forecast a number of upcoming projects. I'm really excited to see kind of the boom in downtown, the renaissance. One of the other things we've been working on is post the tentative ruling of the court on the Hollywood Community Plan on sorting those issues out with our city attorney's office. I'd like to thank the city attorney's office for their dedication in protecting the city and the citizens as they work with us on the court's preliminary ruling and waiting for the final ruling, and we'll be coming back to the city council to talk about options that arise from that. So I'll be here for any questions you may have during the meeting and look forward to your meeting.
Questions or comments? Thank you very much, Mr. LeGrand. We could now go to item number 1, and if that could be read into the record, please.
Sure, Councilman. Item 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Lisa Waltz Morocco to the West LA APC.
Thank you. Is Ms. Morocco here?
Hi.
Thank you.
Here I come.
Welcome, and if you could just state your interest in serving on this commission and anything else you'd like to share with us.
Well, first of all, it's a big honor to be considered for this commission. I live on Overland Avenue in Los Angeles. I bought my house in 1989, and I'm here probably because of my neighbor, Mr. Richard Rowan, who is my new neighbor. He had just moved in. He had just planted a rose garden. He had just donated a kidney to his daughter, and he was struck and hit by a car on my street, and subsequently died 24 hours later at UCLA.
Wow.
All the neighbors that were there that day knew that we had a busy street, knew that we needed a stop sign, knew that we needed to make a change, but none of us did anything about it. We all thought we couldn't fight City Hall. So we all went back to our houses, but we all decided to start doing something. So for me, that's where it started. And then I got involved in the West Side Neighborhood Council. And this honor seems like an extension of that because my interest started on my street, and then it extended to my direct neighborhood, and now I'm excited to help serve on this committee.
Great, thank you. And I think that was the whole reason and purpose of establishing these area planning commissions, was to have people like you on these commissions who know the community, are passionate about improving the neighborhood, to make those decisions that will lay out the groundwork for the future of those neighborhoods. I was reading through your background, and it also says that you may bring some of your other skills to this, because a lot of this may help you. You've starred in General Hospital,
Yes.
My So-Called Life,
Yes.
Boston Legal,
Wait a minute.
CSI Miami.
Who slipped you all this?
Brazier.
Is my agent here?
My staff just does some really good background searches, that's all.
That's very nice.
Oh, but congratulations, and thank you for your willingness to serve. And are there any other questions or comments? No? Mr. Cedillo?
Besides being in General Hospital, her husband is also quite an angel himself as an emergency room physician at UCLA.
All right.
Yes, he is.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank him.
Well, thank you. The purpose of this committee is to have some transparency as to who we're appointing to these commissions, and also allow the public to see and hear from our appointed commissioners, and we will have that opportunity again at the full council, which is when?
January 21st.
January 21st. So we'll refer this item to January 21st without objection for this committee.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for your time and your
Thank
willingness
you.
to serve. Thank you. Bye-bye. This item is approved, yeah. So next item is item number 2, and if that could be read into the record,
Sure.
please.
Item 2 is a motion, Weezer Bonnen. It's instructing the planning department to report on its code compliance section.
Okay, is staff here on this item? Yes, no?
Mike LeGrand for the Planning Department. As with most motions, we request that you refer this to staff, and we can report back in a short distance of time, say 30 days, if that's okay with the committee.
Okay, that's our intent, is to refer this item to staff and then to full council. Well, actually, to staff, they could begin the work and hopefully get approved from council. In the meantime, we'll refer it also to council. And we have some public speakers, and I just have some small clarifications after this. We hear from the public speakers. So first, this is item number 2, right? CD 11, Trisha Keene.
Good afternoon. I'm Trisha Keene, the Planning Director for Councilman Mike Bonnen, and I'll keep my statement really brief. Absent genuine, regular, and rigorous compliance with the planning process, or with the conditions of approval on a project, the planning process has no teeth, and we would like to ensure that there are appropriate resources for compliance going forward so that we can have a process that does work for the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Jay Handel. After Jay Handel is Margaret Taylor.
Good afternoon. My name is Jay Handel. I chair the Budget Advocates citywide for the Neighborhood Council system. This group that you have is a godsend to our city, quite frankly. And I know there's some people that aren't happy because they're actually now being fined and paying fees they haven't paid, although it's been on the books and they should have been doing that for a couple of years. As a budget advocate, and part of our charge is to make sure that we have a really well-run city. Having proper code enforcement is critical to making that happen. In fact, we've suggested in the last couple of months to Councilman Bonnen that maybe your committee and everyone in council would consider actually a per square foot fee to be able to, on all new buildings and projects, to be able to ensure that we have proper code enforcement moving forward. Cutting it back would be a huge mistake. As chair of the West LA Neighborhood Council, I have one school in my district that in their first year had 164 CUP violations, and we were unable to get help. So we would implore you, as CD11 just did, boost it up, don't cut it down. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Margaret Taylor. After Margaret Taylor is Denny Schneider.
Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing this item. Thank you for your work. Margaret Taylor, for the record, of Apex LA, land use consultant in the city of Los Angeles, 25 years in LA and throughout the state of California. I also have a master's in business with emphasis in change management and organizational design. So that's my background on this item. I actually am absolutely in support of condition compliance. I think that there is some modification or adjustments that need to be made in terms of, practically speaking, in terms of the implementation of it. I'm going to give you 2 quick examples. One is I had an applicant who filed a plan approval on time as a sunset clause item, completely consistent with the conditions of approval. It was a $7,000 application for a small deli that was much loved by the community and only sold alcohol as a minor percentage of sales. We got 250 signatures in support in 2 weeks, and we stopped collecting signatures. The plan approval process was implemented because there was no condition compliance. And so we really, I think that there's a duplication of a lot of these items. And I have, I guess, if time is up.
Time's up. If you could wrap it up, please. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to just say these quick things. First of all, differentiation. Small vendors are getting killed by the fee of the $2,066.40. Duplication with sunset clauses. Consistency on both the ZAs and the planning people. And then make it consistent with the goal and objective. Well-intentioned people need to thrive. And I think small businesses have great jeopardy of being hurt by it as the way it is now.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Denny Schneider. After Denny Schneider is Daphne Galkin.
Mr. Chair, council members, thank you. I represent the Westchester Neighbors Association here today. As neighbors and people who live around all the developments that are affected by code compliance, we need your help to make sure that there's such a group to actually enforce these things. We've had so many occasions where we had agreements that were made during the planning process and approval of the projects, and then they never got enforced. And so this project is that very much important to us. Thank you. I will mention one last thing, though, that I have heard a couple issues where people have been, like a restaurant has been hurt, that's been in business for years and years, that nobody enforced it for that many years. And I think you need to have at least some kind of mechanism where those folks can be grandfathered. But that's the only reason that you wouldn't have this in all cases. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cedillo?
All right, so, what was his name?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider?
Mr. Schneider?
So your idea is that we have some, even though there's been notice and it's been a long time period, that since we had not enforced it, that we give new notice with some type of grandfather, some type of amnesty before we begin to go ahead and effectuate it. So it would have an adverse impact. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Daphne Galkin. After Daphne is Cindy Hench. Hank.
Good afternoon. My name is Daphne Goxon, and I'm representing FE Design and Consulting. We're a land use consulting company that at any one time we represent about 60 conditional use permit and alcohol beverage control license applications. FE Design is in favor of this unit in principle, but that we believe that businesses should be in compliance with the conditions they agree to, but there are certain changes that should be made in order to make the process a little bit easier on businesses. First of all, a reduced effectuation fee when they're already paying about $8,000 to $15,000 for their conditional use permit to then be hit with a $2,000 fee is a huge shock for a lot of businesses. I think that scaling the fees to the size of the project would be something really beneficial so that a small project pays a much smaller fee based on the actual staff work involved. You'll see that with the fire department and with building and safety, they spend a comparable amount of time reviewing the projects for clearances, but that they charge a lower fee. Also, we think that there should be, the conditional compliance unit themselves should do the effectuation. There's a problem where it gets sent to the development services counter, and then they have to communicate back to the condition compliance unit, and so there's some miscommunication, and also communication with the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control should be more streamlined, maybe through an online system where they can all view whether or not it's been cleared, just to reduce the amount of time. I'm sorry I've gone over a bit, but just wanted to get all that out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia Hench and Albert Milena.
Hi, my name's Cindy Hench. I'm from Westchester. I think it's probably pretty obvious to say that the problem with code enforcement isn't that it's overfunded or that we're doing too much of it, unless you're the victim of code enforcement. Then maybe it feels like it. But I want to come to tell you that we need to make sure that this is properly funded, or we need to stop issuing codes. We need to enforce the ones that we have. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Albert Milena and then Vanessa May.
Good afternoon. My name is Albert Milena. Here really as a resident of the city of Los Angeles and an organization that works with community groups to address the problems specifically related around problematic outlets in our communities. And really I'm here to express our support for the Condition Compliance Unit, even if it's strictly to really help community members, community organizations, neighborhood councils obtain much needed information, and really again to look at a lot of these non-conforming businesses that exist in the city of Los Angeles. So I really urge you to fully fund the Condition Compliance Unit and really let it do what it's meant to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vanessa May and then David Garfinkel.
Good afternoon. My name is Vanessa May. I'm from the Foothill Trail District Neighborhood Council, and I'm here to pledge support for funding the Conditional Compliance Unit. It is a tool that neighborhoods need to help manage businesses in their community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. David Garfinkel and then Barbara Ringett.
My name is David Garfinkel. I'm president of the Tarzana Property Owners Association, and we fully support funding for this organization. There's a lot of effort that goes into establishing conditions that make sense on various properties, various businesses, and we feel that the enforcement of those provisions is really kind of critical. So we urge full support and full funding of the organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Ringett?
Good afternoon. I am a member of the board at the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council and part of a committee of the Budget Advocates Neighborhood Council system that's looking into the planning department and building and safety. We are impressed and encouraged by the work the Condition Compliance Unit has begun. We are hopeful that this is just the beginning of condition compliance enforcement within the city structure. We believe it is imperative that the city fund a larger and even more robust condition compliance operation. A permanent funding mechanism such as a condition compliance fee as a part of the project application should be considered. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So with those comments, okay, Jim McQuiston. Jim McQuiston's our last speaker on this item.
Jim McQuiston. Many years ago, I argued in Budget and Finance Committee when they wanted to get rid of 90 code inspectors that we have public safety as number one, and the code inspectors, the reason for the code is public safety. And so we have to enforce public safety if it is a safety item. And if it's not a safety item, it shouldn't be on the books. So we have a choice. If we have it on the books, we have to enforce it. That's the way the law is going. And so this will be a budget and finance item as far as whether we fund these. But I did want to mention the fact that if we have this on the books, we put it on the books for public safety. And therefore, if we don't enforce it, what we're saying is we want the people to be unsafe.
Thank you. So with that, we will have this report back within 30 days and also move this item forward to full council. And the reason we're moving this motion forward is that we didn't have an opportunity through this committee, the Planning, Land Use, and Management Committee, or the council to look at the fees, to look at the impacts, to look at the intents, and have a full discussion about this in public. So that's why this motion was brought forward, and we hope the conversation we heard today from the public hopefully shows the interest in this, and we will have a more fuller discussion when the full report is back in 30 days. So thank you for that.
Councilman, may I make one announcement about a training we have coming up?
Sure.
I see a lot of consultants and our customers in the audience, as well as neighborhood groups. We'll be having a training on condition compliance and how to effectuate grants on February 27th, 2014, I believe at the Parker at LAPD's center across the street. And you can contact our office, and we'll get you in touch. We'll be sending out mailers to over hundreds of people in the coming future, but one of the ways to demystify the process and walk people through the best way to save time and compliance in this process.
Thank you. And lastly, the motion itself calls this a code compliance section, whereas the actual name is the condition compliance section, and we could change that in the motion. So we'll move that item without objection. Mr. Englander, Mr. Dio. Okay. Thank you. So ordered. Item number 3.
Item 3, Councilman, is a city planning report and 2 draft ordinance prepared by the city attorney to establish river supplemental use districts and also the first Rio overlay district.
Thank you. Staff?
Good afternoon, councilors. Claire Bonnen, City Planning Department. I'm very pleased today to be here in front of you to talk about the River Improvement Overlay District and its first River Improvement Overlay District for the Los Angeles River. effort on these two ordinances began back in 2006 during the outreach for the Los Angeles River Revitalization Master Plan. That effort went on for about 18 months. It included hundreds of stakeholders, numerous meetings. We also then continued our outreach even after the master plan was adopted, but it was a thoroughly extensive outreach that went on for many years and included many, many organizations. During that outreach, especially the initial outreach, when people were being asked to define the boundaries for the master plan, we heard a lot from the community about how the boundaries of the master plan, and particularly this Rio, should extend up some of the many tributaries that join into the Los Angeles River. It was that input that actually encouraged us to actually develop this supplemental use district and then have a separate, first Rio. The idea was that by including in a supplemental use district basic standards so that it would enable other communities along those tributaries or along the Iona Creek, for example, to have their own Rios in the future. So really what we were hearing from the community was there was a lot of interest in having a Rio. People really saw the value in having a Rio along their waterway because of the kind of unique characteristics that it would inform the community that they were in a very special place. But we thought it was just too much to make one Rio be so extensive of all these tributaries. So really what you have in front of you is, again, the supplemental use district now with the first one. And really what this enables is going forward, it would be very easy for us to do additional Rios should other communities want it. One of the first things I think it's really important to point out to you is that the standards in the Rio, as they apply then to the Los Angeles River, are only for new projects or projects that are undergoing major renovations. So a project that's spending more than 50% of its current value. So this will not affect current uses that are staying the way they are, and it's only for new projects or major renovations. It also is comprised of design standards. It does not in any way impact the underlying zoning of a project. It doesn't affect their floor area ratio. It doesn't affect their parking or the land uses. It's simply design standards that are intent to really promote the aesthetics and the habitat of the surrounding area. Because again, we really see areas around these waterways as potential areas to protect and really and to beautify. One of the things I should also point out to you is that the standards you have in front of you today in the Rio are a kind of a reduced extent to the original Rio that we put forth. Part of the reason that this has taken so long is it is kind of a second round. We had a much more comprehensive set of standards that were initially developed, and again, that was due to all the input we had from the community wanting to see a very robust set of standards. But that, again, after working through the city attorney's office, we ended up with a very kind of a smaller standards. And we think the set of standards in front of you today are very reasonable. They're not particularly onerous. They're not asking people to do a lot. You're really, if you're doing landscaping, we're asking that the landscaping be sensitive and supportive of the areas around the river, asking you to, if you're along the river, to put in a fence style that, again, respects and acknowledges the importance of the corridor. I think I also wanted to just point out in closing that in addition to all the additional outreach we did is that since 2007, we imposed a zoning information on all properties within about 300 feet of the river, and that has allowed us to keep the development community informed throughout the years between when we initially started this and now. So every time a development comes forth and pulls a building permit, they have to get a clearance from our department. What this has allowed us to do is to continuously inform developers about not only the vision for the master plan, but also that this Rio is coming forth to them, and allows us also to tell them what are the kind of standards that the Rio will include. And I have to say that after the many, many developers I've spoken with over the years, every time I've told them the kinds of standards we're proposing, not one of them has ever opposed those standards. They've all said, gee, I'll be probably doing those are the kind of things I would want to do anyway. They were really excited about the Rio, and again, the idea that their property would be included within this very special and unique place. With that, I think I'm going to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll now go to public comment, and our first speaker is Ronald Ziff. After Ronald Ziff is David Garfinkel.
Thank you. I'm Ron Ziff, Vice President, Land Use Chair for the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council. This ordinance has spent 7 years in the Planning Department, 2 years in the City Attorney's Office, and the neighborhood councils were given 3 days to look it over and 1 minute to talk about it. We're deeply concerned about the control over this 4 square mile strip that cuts through the center of our community. Building and Safety and Public Works were given 30 days to check it out. We would like at least the same 30 days. We're requesting a continuance. The river is navigable downstream, but in Sherman Oaks, it's only 18 inches of slime coming from the Tillman plant that creeps through a concrete channel with sheer 23-foot walls. Nothing but algae grows there, nothing goes there. Signs, fences, and piles of sandbags block the approach. Even the Tillman plant is about to shut off the water and pump it into the ground instead.
Thank you. David Garfinkel. And I have here the, Renee Weitzer, not Councilmember Tomlin, but Renee, yeah, after. Okay. David Garfinkel.
Yes, my name is David Garfinkel, President of the Tarzana Property Owners Association and a board member of the Tarzana Neighborhood Council, and I'm speaking for both organizations today. We strongly support efforts to improve the river throughout the city of Los Angeles. However, this ordinance has some extremely onerous flaws in it, and we believe that it should be reconsidered, some outreach with the neighborhood councils and other organizations that are affected. Let me just mention a very few. The boundaries are much too wide. Claire Bowen just talked about a 300-foot width that they've used in the past. That sounds much more reasonable than the 2 miles that is in the outer boundary at Tampa and from the river to Sherman Way. That's ridiculous. Those people are not part of the river, are not affected by the river, and don't affect the river. Other things have to do with the onerous requirements, like an additional step in the building process, onerous requirements on landscaping and lighting, etc., and parking. There is a parking restriction if there's a 10-foot boundary between the river and commercial buildings and multifamily residentials. It does cut into the parking. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I've submitted a more detailed letter.
Okay. And you... Okay. I'm... Beth Gordy, yes. Right ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Beth Gordy with Latham & Watkins, representing NBC Universal. We would like to thank planning staff for their hard work on the Rio and request one clarification to the ordinance. It appears on the proposed LA Rio map that 3 small slivers along the northern edge of the NBC Universal property are included. We respectfully request clarification that the proposed LA Rio in the ordinance that the NBC Universal property is not subject to the Rio. The property is subject to a comprehensive regulations as part of the NBC Universal Evolution Plan, which included a development agreement, a signed district, a zoning change ordinance, and a specific plan. These approvals, as part of these approvals, NBC Universal is investing more than $13.5 million to help realize the overall river and bikeway plans from Griffith Park to Studio City. In addition, NBC Universal will create a trailhead park on the property along the river. We've submitted a letter with language clarifying this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee Weitzer from Councilmember Tom LaBonge's office.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Renee Weitzer with Councilman Tom LaBonge. We've worked on the NBC Universal plan for 7 years and finally got it approved by both the city and the county. Development agreement, specific plans, sign ordinance, everything that you could possibly have. Part of the conditions is that MBC provide $13+ million for the river bikeway, as well as they're also building a 1-acre trail park at the edge of Barham Boulevard and the river. And we support MBC in asking to be exempted from the Rio plan. They have their own approved plans with a lot of money, and we don't feel that they really should be part of the Rio plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nancy Steele. After Nancy Steele is Arthur Golding.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. My name is Nancy Steele. I'm the Executive Director of the Council for Watershed Health, and I'm here to speak in support of the proposed ordinance. The River Improvement Overlay District will create communities adjacent to the LA River that are not just water-wise, but are watershed-wise. The RIOs that have been implemented throughout the country have inspired developers to include or link to nearby open space, bikeways, and pedestrian trails. This is a win for the community, not a negative. It will provide and strengthen social connections by linking diverse neighborhoods, cultural sites, public parks, and recreational destinations. Council for Watershed Health has been working for a number of months in support of this. We have worked with our committee, the Landscape Ethic Committee. Arthur Golding, who's speaking next, chairs that committee, and we have helped to develop a robust plant palette that can be used in the Rio. The LA River is a unique and precious natural, cultural, and historic resource, and the Rio Overlay and Design Guidelines will encourage and inspire people to discover and rediscover the unique sense of place a native landscape and revitalized river can provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Arthur Golding. After Arthur Golding is Carol Armstrong.
Good afternoon. I'm Arthur Golding. I'm an architect and urban designer, and I've been involved with issues around the river for 25 years. As Claire Bowen said, this Rio proposal has been extensively reviewed and has been a consultative process that's involved many members of the community and professional folks as well, and I want to strongly support it and urge you not to delay. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Armstrong and then Paula Daniels.
Good afternoon, Councilman Huizar and honorable committee members. My name is Carol Armstrong. I am the head of the LA River Project Office in the Bureau of Engineering in the City of Los Angeles. I have a dream job. I love my job, and my job is to implement the city's LA River Revitalization Master Plan passed by the Council in May of 2007. One of the main recommendations of the plan on page 8-7 is implementation of the LA River Improvement Overlay District. And so I am very excited that it is before your committee for consideration today. Cities around the world, when they revitalize their waterways, they need to actually put teeth behind their actions. And that is what the LA River Improvement Overlay District, the LA Rio, will be for us. I do want to stress that when we did the master plan, there were at least 18 public meetings. Hundreds of people attended over a 2-year period. And so we had literally thousands of people involved. This is not something that happened yesterday. It's been going on for 7 years. And we know it's been a while since people have heard about it. I just encourage you to swiftly consider this and move this forward. This is super exciting. And go Team River. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula Daniels and then Barry Johnson.
Good afternoon, council members, Mr. LeGrand. It's hard to follow Carol Armstrong, who is the queen of the river, I think, in terms of moving a lot of things forward. But Claire Bowen has been another amazing champion, and I'm here to testify from my memory of being a public works commissioner and sitting in that very chair where Councilman Cedillo is sitting right now for 6 years. And in that time, I had the privilege of being responsible primarily for the LA River revitalization effort. I worked also to develop a Green Streets plan for the City of LA, Green Streets Initiative, which I started in 2007. And by that time, Claire Bowen had already started working on the Rio. And I heard a lot about it because she integrated a lot of the stormwater principles that we were trying to advance through our Green Streets Initiative into the Rio. It's a very important document for a number of reasons, but because of the way it treats stormwater capture and lays the foundation for the later real work to begin around stormwater, it's important to get that piece in place and passed now. We really don't have too much time to waste any more water, including stormwater, when we had the driest year in record in LA last year and more to come. So I hope we can move forward on this foundational step so the rest can happen soon, and congratulate everybody for getting it to this stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Barry Johnson and then Mia Lehrer.
Barry Johnson, Studio City Residents Association. We would like to thank Claire for all the hard work she has done, and particularly delineating the wishes of both Studio City and Sherman Oaks in our boundaries. The latest ordinance rendition supports what we each wanted. We thank her for that. We would ask that you take into consideration what Tarzana is asking for in clarifying some boundaries and before this is finalized. And the one last thing, we support the 50% formula. We think it's more than fair. If you're going to, have a $400,000 house and you're going to spend more than $200,000 in improvements, you can afford to make the small amount of improvements and distinctions to your landscaping. Thank you.
Thank you. Mia Lehrer.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here in this great room. And I'm really excited to support the Rio guidelines. Frankly, I was a little surprised how long it took. I thought, as part of the master plan team, once the document was approved, that the guidelines were approved. So thank you for the incredibly hard work on the part of the planning department and through Claire Bowen, and also always the RARA team. And I think that Los Angeles has to recognize that we're maturing, we're growing, and we need to change. And we have to accept change, and we need to leave this city better off than what we found it for our kids. And we're densifying, and we need to look at this infrastructure, the LA River, and really reconsider how we address these spaces and places and build community. So I really believe that the guidelines really do what we all intended, and I think there were more than 18 meetings. You added 0 to them. There were about 180. So over time, I think we've really reached out in a thorough way.
Thank you. With that, open it up to questions and comments from committee members. Anybody who wishes to speak? Mr. Cedillo.
Mr. Chair, I obviously support this. I'm very excited during my campaign. This was a question during my campaign. I said, well, of course we support it. We supported option 20. Very happy to go with Carol, who loves her job, to Washington to lobby the president, no less, with our mayor, who did a brilliant job, and our work at the White House with Senator Feinstein, Boxer. It was an incredible experience. And so our commitment is well-defined and well-determined. At the same time, Ron Ziff, if I may be casual with you, you've made a point and it's well taken. There's a process here in which we want the public, as much as possible, to be fully comfortable with what we're doing. We want to get this right, and we want to get it right at every step. And so, Mr. Ziff, Mr. Garfinkel, we've heard you. There's a need for some clarity, for some tweaks. I'm familiar with the river as it affects my district, as all of us are, but I'm not familiar with it as it affects Ventura Boulevard or Sherman Oaks or any other places beyond, and I'm not comfortable making a decision today on those areas. It's not that I'm not uncomfortable making a decision. It's I'm not comfortable making that decision today because I want others to be comfortable. I want to take the moments that will bring the full support of our community to the river. And so I'm going to suggest that we not go forward for 90 days so that we can do the final tweaks, do the final buffing up. It's been a while. 2 years is a long time for something to sit, and we want to make sure everybody is there. There is no doubt, though, for me that I'm very clear that on the MBC project, that needs to be exempted because it's already in some respects integrated right? I don't want people to think that we're exempting it because it doesn't apply, but it's exempted only because they've gone further than others and have done the work, and that work has to be respected. And so when we say exempt in this case, it's only because we're acknowledging the reality of that they are ahead of the work schedule than the rest of us. Obviously, we all support it. We want to do it right. We want to have the clarity that Mr. Johnson always asks for when he comes here. He wants those distinctions. Distinctions do matter, and they make us all have a greater sense of comfort. So my recommendation is that at this moment, with the exemption of the MVCU project, that we hold this for 90 days so that we can position ourselves to make that decision.
Okay. Sure. Any other questions or comments? No. Okay. With that, let me agree with Mr. Cedillo and say that we obviously want this to move forward. It's integral to implementing the LA River Revitalization Master Plan, and certainly the visible and aesthetic improvements that can be made as you get closer to the river are going to complement what we're trying to do at the actual site. But let's agree to hold this item for 90 days and pursue that additional input that Mr. Cedillo has requested, and we'll be back in.
The planning makes themselves available for the tweaks and the concerns people are raising.
And that planning make themselves available for the tweaks that and concerns that the public may have. Okay.
Yes, and during that time period, City Attorney will work with NBC's counsel regarding the exemption issue.
Okay. Mr. Englander.
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Cedillo for that. It gives the public and the neighborhood councils and those to get more involved as well, but only in L.A., where our rivers are paved and our streets aren't.
Yes.
So we can do something about this. Thank you.
You're going to take care of that.
Next item. That was really good.
Item 4, Councilman, is an appeal by the project applicant, the 7407 La Tijera Nord Limited Liability Corporation. They're appealing the decision of the Planning Commission, which disapproved a site plan review for a proposed mixed-use building in CD 11.
One second. Let me, as people quiet down in front of me and behind me, Mr. Tanner. Okay, if anybody have any conversations, you could please take them outside to the hallway. Thank you. And staff, you could proceed on this item.
Good afternoon. So as stated, what you have before you is a request for it's an appeal and a request for a transfer of jurisdiction. The project is located in Westchester at the southwest corner of La Tijera Boulevard and 74th Street. The requested action is a density bonus with on- and off-menu incentives, as well as a site plan review for a project creating 50 or more residential units. The proposed project is a 5-story mixed-use apartment building. It will provide 140 residential units, 2,600 square feet of ground floor commercial, and 241 parking spaces. The case was presented before the Planning Commission 2 times, where planning staff initially recommended approval of the project subject to conditions intended to minimize the project's impact on the abutting neighborhood and based on the project's location on a major arterial. At the first meeting in August, the Commission members expressed concerns regarding the project's proposal to locate 15 residential units, a full story below grade level, as well as the project's proposal to provide additional parking spaces that was beyond the municipal code. The case was continued, and the applicant was asked to go back and redesign the project before returning. Being that the project, as proposed, had gone through numerous rounds of community outreach, the project returned in September to the Commission with no changes. At this time, parking was no longer seen as an issue, as the project was overparked after concerns with neighboring residents that parking was necessary in the area. However, as a result of the applicant's failure to redesign the project, specifically regarding the subterranean units, those concerns with livability, light and air, security, and walkability of the project remained. In summary, the Planning Commission denied the project based on site plan review due to concerns, as stated previously, and they did not take an action on the density bonus. As the Planning Department welcomes the provision of additional affordable housing in the community, it must be provided within a livable project. Planning would support the requested density bonus if these issues regarding livability were addressed. That's all I have. I'm here for any questions you may have.
Great, thank you very much. At this time, we'll hear from the applicant and appellant, Jonathan Launer. And as is customary, the applicants or appellants have 5 minutes to make their case, and then all the other speakers have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, council members. I just wanted to reiterate and thank staff for that brief overview of our project. I just wanted to clarify that we are requesting a transfer of jurisdiction on the items from CPC that we're not taking an action on, including the density bonus and our mitigated negative declaration, as well as the appeal on site plan review. This project has been in front of the community and specifically the neighborhood council for approximately 18 months. We met with the neighborhood council long before we filed the project to go over the options for this site. This site is at the corner of La Tijera and 74th, approximately 600 feet from the La Tijera exit of the 405. It consists of a site that was a former Shell station, a liquor store, and a vacant Marie Callender's. In going over this site and the opportunity for redevelopment of this site with the community, we talked about a number of options, including a multi-phase project that included a mixed-use component and residential that was split into 2 phases. That would be approximately 99 units. We also talked about a different option of an SB 1818 option, which was a 2-phase project that would get approximately up to 133 or 134. Based on those presentations and dialogue about what SB 1818 was and the underlying zoning, we came to a project as submitted, a 140-unit project that was under the 45-foot height limit of the C2 1VL zone from grade. We do have the atrium units, which Ms. Monterosa described, that were at issue with CPC. On going through this project and the applicant's provision of off-site traffic improvements for an intersection that was believed to be problematic, additional parking, the aesthetic and mixed-use components, we did secure the support of the neighborhood council, both at its planning and land use committee as well as the full board. As we progressed, we had a hearing officer hearing where we had both support and opposition show up talking about this site as a unique site, but at a corner that had a lot of commercial and opportunity. We continued to present, and at our CPC hearing, were asked if we would raise the building, if we would add at a minimum 5 feet of height to the building to bring those atrium units out of the ground and reduce the parking to a minimum code required level. We responded to the City Planning Commission that after 18 months of meeting with the community, hearing their concerns, and listening to those of the council office, we believed that we had entered an agreement with the community and our council office that the project as presented was one that was appropriate for this corner, was good planning principles, and was an asset that could be viewed by the community and the council office for this site as a real tool to redevelop this corner. We came back responding to a handful of items that City Planning Commission brought up, including the inclusion of some enhanced BOE right-of-way, trees and landscaping, change in the project description so that the City Planning Commission body could approve the off-site traffic improvements that we had recommended, as well as a dialogue of the architects that we had met with, as well as building and safety, who had looked at our plans for the atrium units and said that they believed that these were livable, habitable, and safe. In going over the whole project with building and safety from a code compliance point of view saw no issue with the atrium units or the overall design. And based on our support from the Neighborhood Council, from the Chamber, as well as others, we believe that this was the preferred project for the site and the one that we continued to support. CPC disagreed with us and really wanted to raise the height of this project. As we felt that that was inappropriate, they did deny our site plan review and took no action on the density bonus. We met with the Neighborhood Council following that CPC determination and went through all of the steps both that we had done with staff as well as the neighborhood to itemize and go over this project really as an asset, and have stuck with the design that the community has supported, that the Neighborhood Council voted to support, and believe that this is the superior project for this site. The underlying zoning allows a 45-foot height limit. We are designing to that. The 56 feet in height is measured from a point subterranean to grade. So standing on that corner, you will be looking at a 45-foot building. It's mixed use. It has commercial component. It has bicycle parking. It connects to a proposed bicycle path and street. And in reviewing the original recommendation report offered by the Department of City Planning after its May 29th hearing, we would ask that you look to those words and descriptions of why we are meeting the intent of the community plan, the bicycle ordinance, and the general governing documents of the city's general plan, and approve or recommend approval of our project and forward it to City Council. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and we'll be able to answer any questions you have on the project.
Thank you. Kimberly Fox. After Kimberly Fox is Cindy Hench.
I'm a resident of Westchester. I live on 74th Street, which terminates at the location of the project. I'm here to provide council members and staff, as you would like, a full report of community input on the project. Do what? Okay, so the larger books are a summary of community input plus copies of all of the forms that were given in so that you can verify the numbers. We're holding an excuse me, we have an online survey, and we've also done some walking around the neighborhood or invited people to fill out a form where they give their opinion on approve or deny, and then they prioritize the 4 key issues that came out of the various community meetings where people are concerned about the project being inappropriate for the neighborhood in terms of scale, in terms of density, in terms of traffic impact, and the reflection of overall urban planning relative to the context that the building will be in. So I'd invite you to read this, but bottom line is, so far 247 immediate residents in the area have given input, 2 have voted to approve, everyone else has voted to deny, and the prioritization of the concerns and issues about the project are included in the summary.
Thank you. Cindy Hench, and then John Rulin.
Hello again, Cindy Hench. I'm the Neighborhood Council President for the Neighborhood Council of Westchester Playa. On May 8th, 2013, the Neighborhood Council submitted a letter to Planning to support the project as submitted by the developer. Our letter included 10 conditions of approval. The developer accepted those conditions and as part of their overall project. I want to be very, very clear here that the Neighborhood Council supports the project that was presented by the developer, not the one that the Planning Commission has recommended, which is bigger, taller, less parking. The concern that I have is that, I get that the Planning Commission is committed to density and height throughout our city, but this is Westchester, and this is next door to a lot of homes. So the additional 5 feet that would come if this appeal is not supported would be disastrous. Thank you.
John Rulin, then Daniel Glick.
Good afternoon. My name is John Rulin. I'm a resident of Westchester. I'm also president of the Westchester Streetscape Improvement Association. Our goal is to make our main streets and arteries in Westchester beautiful and inviting for people to travel. And because of that, the developer came to us and asked to work with them on La Tijera. It's about a quarter-mile stretch. We've been working with their landscape architect. We've walked both sides of the street to evaluate what is needed. It extends from 74th to Airport Boulevard. At Airport Boulevard intersection, there's a median that's been dirt for as long as I can remember. And this will be included as being planted, and we will have new trees. The developer would also, they've also provided the plans for that. They're also going to be assisting us in hand watering all of this for 1 year. So we encourage you to approve this. It'd be a real plus to the community. It's a win-win situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Gluck, and then Denny Schneider.
Thank you. There's been 3 episodes in a lifetime, and this is going to be the 4th. The first one's Titanic, Custer's Last Stand, and maybe the Hindenburg, and then the 74th Street thing. I put it in one position because it's a joke. They're taking all these cars out of 3 levels of parking on one little street, and that street's usually jammed. How do you get rid of the cars? And taking that for what it is, the whole thing should never have come this far. Thank you.
Thank you. Denny Schneider, Arnold Tenna.
No problem. Denny Schneider, and everybody wants some development here. There's no question about that. But the size and magnitude of this project is way beyond scope of anything in Westchester. It's the most dense project ever conceived for us. And there is a big difference between outreach and acceptance by the community, and it is not accepting. The traffic issue is one of major consequence to us. The egress is on a small street. It is considered a collector street, but it's a substandard width. So the traffic in this area is going to be just unbelievably bad, and so we implore you not to go along with this. The second project, there's going to be another one coming before you in not too far distance because the buggy whip has closed, and that large parcel across the street from this one will probably be coming in front of you soon. That one will then be more like this one and even bigger. It's just not there. Thank you.
Arnold Tenna, and then Tim Kalyasniko.
I'm Arnold Tenna. I have lived in Westchester at 7728 Hindley for the better part of 46 years. And we've seen a number of changes during that time. Nothing, however, of the magnitude of this project. I am very much in favor of leaving, even the way that corner is, the way it is. I am concerned of the congestion that will be caused by that thing. During the recent period of the Christmas season, I walk in the area because that's what my cardiologist tells me to do. I saw one accident happen there at the corner, at the intersection. I've seen 2 or 3 near misses, and this does not include any of the traffic that will be brought on by this project. I'm also concerned, we've all been reminded recently in the newspapers and the media of the damage caused in 1994 by the earthquake. I know that we live close to the Newport Englewood fault. I would hope that there have been some seismic studies made of the project that would lead us to believe that the project would not cause as much damage as was caused in 1994.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Your time expired. Thank you. Tim Kolesniko, Diane Scher.
Good afternoon. I grew up in Westchester. I moved back there to raise my family, and it's always been a community of single-family homes. So this is a big departure from that, and an example of what it's going to look like is already found on the other side of the freeway in La Tijera. You're driving down a concrete canyon, before you cross over the freeway and enter into the area where this project is proposed for. This is even to be higher than that, and this is the gateway to Westchester. It's going to, because that's where the freeway off-ramp is, it's going to look very bad. It's already sort of a problem intersection because there is a post office there that gets a substantial amount of traffic. There's a couple of gas stations, and this is going to add to the traffic problem there. It's a massive project, very much out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. And I understand that there's been the claim that the neighborhood is on board with this, but the neighborhood council is not the same as the residents, and neither is the Chamber of Commerce. I will tell you that the residents are very much opposed to this, so you should deny this. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Scher, Quirino Tolentino.
Good afternoon. Thanks for this opportunity and the Brown Act and all that. 74th Street is a very tiny street. I live on it. There's two-way traffic parking on both sides. I ride a bicycle. It's invigorating to stay alive on that street. Also, 74th Street is right adjacent to the 405 freeway. They've done freeway widening. They have, Caltrans has purchased 4 houses across the street from me. One has recently been demolished. The freeway wall is right close by. I don't want to see that much traffic on 74th Street because I don't want the freeway wall to fall down because I would go with it. So that's kind of personal. I just don't want to see 300 cars on the street several trips a day. And I think Caltrans should be involved. It's really close. And they did the freeway wall, the expansion in 2004, 2005. Something went wrong. We're talking 2 years pounding pylons. Something went wrong. They came back again, 2007, 2008. I don't think 74th Street, the retaining wall can support the traffic.
Thank you. Quirino Tolentino, Lay Hill.
I am Quirino Tolentino. I live adjacent to the project along 74th Street. I am the nearest neighbor, and I will be the most affected. My house is just opposite the post office also. I have 3 main concerns. First is traffic congestion in front of my house on 74th Street. Second will be the resulting noise and air pollution, which definitely will affect my health. Third, the parking situation will further worsen. Right now, because of the body shop on La Tijera beside the post office, it's really hard to find parking on 74th Street and Wright Avenue. Also, the sidewalk fronting the body shop is so filthy. Can the city do something about this? My driveway is just 25 feet from the entrance of the project. How long will it take me to back up to 74th Street? I also believe that this project in the long term will be bad for the developer and the city. After several years of long waiting to get to 74th Street from the subterranean parking, the residents will get sick and will sue the developer and the city. I suggest that the city require the developer to make a study on this particular issue.
Thank you.
This project is too big for this location. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lay Hill, Christina Davis.
Hello. Thank you for letting us speak here. And I'm hoping that you will...
And you are...
I'm Lee, sorry.
Lay
I'm Lee
Hill,
Hill.
okay.
I'm hoping that you will listen to the neighborhood's concerns because the neighborhood council has not. And I will tell you, I have knocked on about 400 doors. I have spoken to at least 300 people, 300 plus people. Not one of those people, not one, is in favor of this project. What we have is a 1 mile stretch from La Tijera to Sepulveda, 152 residences. They are going to take a mile and 152 residences. They're going to put 140 units on one little place. We have traffic from Playa Vista, the expansion of the 405 freeway, the airport, increasing airport traffic, and the Howard Hughes Center. And this is going to be right in the middle, right where we live. It's not in keeping with the character of the community where people have lived for up to 50 years. To preserve that, they've got pride and ownership, and we are asking that you please listen to us and also know that we are not against a development. We are against this particular project because of its size. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christina Davis, Don Duckworth.
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Davis. I'm the president of the LAX Coastal Area Chamber of Commerce, which represents Westchester, Playa, Marina del Rey, and areas surrounding LAX. I'm here today to express the Chamber's support of the project at La Tijera and 74th Avenue. The Chamber supports projects that encourage smart growth that is transit-oriented and appropriately designed for the jobs housing balance. This site has sat underutilized for many years with nothing but a liquor store and a vacant lot. The project proposes density near a hub of employment and includes an option for affordable housing while also including retail spaces for localized neighborhood commercial uses. I commend the developer for continuing to reach out to the community, and I applaud them for adding the traffic improvements to the intersection of 74th and La Tijera, which will include turn signals, phasing changes, and widening of the street. For these reasons, the Chamber supports this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Duckworth, Deborah Albert.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Don Duckworth. I'm the executive director of the Westchester Town Center BID, which is the commercial property district that encompasses the core of Westchester. The board has considered this project and worked with this developer over an extended period of time, and we strongly support it. The design is great. The density is not that much different than they can do by right, and the community enhancements are incredible that the developer has brought to us. So we support this project. We think it's in the best interest of the community and urge you to do so as well.
Thank you. Deborah Alpert, Tom Saita.
Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Alpert, and I'm a resident of Westchester and a homeowner for 38 years. And I am opposed to this project, and it is overbuilt for the area. My big concern, too, is that the ingress and egress is on a very small street. It's right across from a very busy post office, and Westchester is, I think, part of the city that our part of the city is the most, has a negative impact of pollution. And what we're going to have is a line of cars trying to get through a very narrow street onto the 405 freeway and off, however people are going to keep taking 74th Street in order to get to Sepulveda. There are residents who cannot get in and out of their driveways because of the traffic in the morning and the afternoon currently. So you're adding a lot of cars. It is way overbuilt for the area, and I'm opposed to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Saita, Jim McQuiston.
Thank you very much. Tom Saita. I live on 75th Street, right in the neighborhood there. Just want to reiterate, the project simply does not fit the neighborhood. It sets a very bad precedent, given that there are other properties in the immediate vicinity that have the potential for the same kind of overdevelopment to be done. It needs to be less dense. It needs to be smaller. It needs to be more traffic friendly. It needs to be more livable friendly. All those problems need to be addressed. The neighborhood council may support it, the Chamber of Commerce may support it, but the community does not support it. I've also knocked on doors, collected signatures, been to a lot of neighborhood council meetings. It's, as you've seen some of the numbers presented here, 98% of the people that you talk to are against the project as it is proposed. Thank you very much.
Jim McQuiston And then Trisha Keene from CD 11.
Jim, a question. I've been listening to this, and I don't see anything here that is legally relevant. Lesser Communications versus City of Walnut Creek said the tail does not wag the dog. If the general plan says one thing, you have to abide by the general plan. You cannot rezone. You cannot put a variance in that violates the general plan. And I haven't heard that talked about at all. And that's what you have to go by. If the general plan says it's too big, you cannot do it. You can't issue any kind of change. But also, you cannot influence what the plan looks like. And that's something that the city has gotten into, aesthetics, which Broadway Laguna said that you cannot justify aesthetics in the plan. So I do want to put a caution in on that.
Thank you. Trisha Keene from CD 11.
Good afternoon. I'm Trisha Keene, Director of Planning for Councilman Mike Bonnen. As you know, the City Planning Commission heard this project first back in August and then at a continued hearing in September. The project that was presented to the Planning Commission was the result of a painstaking community process in which the Neighborhood Council and community members worked closely with the applicant to craft a project with features intended to address neighborhood concerns. As a result of that process, the applicant agreed to include a number of features in the project related to parking and traffic, agreed to work with DOT to improve traffic signalization at 74th and La Tijera, agreed to provide additional parking above and beyond what the code requires, and agreed to participate in efforts to enhance the surrounding streetscape. All of this within the context of a project that's at a density that would otherwise be allowed by right, or that is consistent with what would otherwise be allowed by right, and that provides 13 very low-income housing units, affordable housing that's needed not just in our district and this community, but throughout the city. At the Planning Commission hearings, our office supported this project. The property zoning allows for this type of development. The applicant followed the rules when it came to SB 1818 density bonuses and incentives, and provided the 13 affordable units in return for 9 additional units of density, a ratio that's not generally seen on SB 1818 projects, and a ratio that we think sets a good precedent for future development. With this in mind, and with the additional measures incorporated into the project's design as a result of the hard work of the Neighborhood Council and the applicant, our office believed that the project should be supported as proposed. However, at the Planning Commission hearing, the Commission did request a number of revisions to the project, primarily focusing on the light well units and the extra parking that the applicant agreed to provide. The Commission did not ask for the applicant to reduce density, but instead asked that the applicant turn the atrium units into regular at-grade units, which would have had the result of increasing the height of the building. The Commission also initially asked the applicant to eliminate the additional parking and indicated that they weren't inclined to accept the promised traffic and circulation improvement measures that the community requests and the applicant promised to provide. The Commission's request would have stripped the project of hard-won neighborhood protections and would have resulted in a project that was less suited to the site. We did not support the Commission's version of the project, which would have been a taller building with less parking and no traffic improvement measures. We are here today to offer our continued support for the original version of the project with the neighborhood protections in place. We have heard from community members who have ongoing concerns regarding the project, and we have given serious consideration to the issues that they have raised. However, after a lot of review and consideration, we believe that the project, with the additional features that were originally included, is both better than the project that would have resulted from the Commission's revisions and better than the project that could be built on the property with only ministerial approvals. Therefore, we ask that your committee support the appeal of the CPC's denial of the site plan review, act on the density bonus, and adopt the conditions and findings of the planning staff report that recommended approval of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. We ask planning staff to please come up again. Thank you. Just to be clear, when did the CPC act upon this item?
September 26th.
September of
It had been
last year.
continued from August 8th.
Okay. And you originally had proposed and supported the site plan review?
Yes, that's correct.
And also supported the density bonus?
Correct.
Okay. Were there any traffic studies conducted for
Yes,
this project?
a traffic study was completed, part of CEQA, and was approved by Department of Transportation. It found that none of the studied intersections would be significantly impacted by the project.
So the traffic study did find that none of the
There's 6 intersections that were studied.
6 intersections wouldn't be significantly impacted. What about parking? If we were to adopt the original proposal, what's the impact on parking in the area?
How do you mean? The parking, in the end, the commission was okay with the project being overparked. And so it was a non-issue at the end of the second commission meeting. So the project will provide, let's see how many more parking spaces. It's about in excess of 71 additional parking spaces that they're providing beyond the municipal code.
Okay.
So,
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, so if my colleagues would agree, I would move that this committee take the following actions: that we overturn the City Planning Commission's denial of the site plan review and approve the site plan; that we act to approve the requested density bonus and off-menu incentives requested; and that we recommend that the council adopt the findings and conditions in the original staff recommendation report. I think this would go towards, I think that, as I listened to this and read these documents, would make a better project for the area, which was also agreed upon by the
excuse me,
neighborhood
Councilman.
council.
Can you add the mitigated negative declaration to that?
To what?
To your recommendation.
What are we going to do with the mitigated
To adopt.
negative?
To adopt it.
Okay.
The environmental.
To adopt the mitigated negative deck. And also CD 11 supports the original plan. So are there any objections to that? Okay, well, so moved, seconded, and so ordered. Thank you. And when will this item be in council? Do we know that, clerk?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This will be in council January 28th.
January 20th. Okay, thank you. Next item, next and final item.
The last item, Councilman, is an appeal by David and Masa Rossin. They're appealing the determination of the Board of Building and Safety Commissioners relative to a haul route for 39,805 cubic yards of earth in CD5.
Okay, staff here on this item? Welcome.
Good afternoon, Cora Johnson, Board of Building and Safety Commission Secretary. Yes, the Board of Building and Safety did have a public hearing on December 17th for the proposed haul route. The haul route was approved with 2 conditions: that the hours were amended from 9 to 4 and no Saturday hauling, and they also added 8 flagmen for the haul route, and the M&D was adopted at that time as well.
Great, thank you. We'll first hear from the appellant and the representative for the appellant, Brad Colloway. And you are the appellant, and the representative of the actual project has 5 minutes, and then each speaker has 1 minute. So you have 1 minute, 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. Brad Calloway for David and Masa Rosen, residents of 930 Stradella Road, immediately adjacent to the proposed project. First of all, I'm going to limit my remarks to the issue of the haul route. We believe that the Board of Building and Safety erred in their judgment on granting this haul route because it's an issue with the health, safety, and welfare of the immediate and surrounding residents. What we're talking about here, gentlemen and ladies, is 39,805 cubic yards. To create a visual picture for you, if you take a look at this, this is about 3 yards. That's a square yard. If you line those up from where I'm standing right here, what they're proposing is 39,805. That would stretch past the Santa Monica Pier. That's how much dirt we're talking about here. This isn't 10,000 square feet. This isn't some small thing. This is 39,805 cubic yards. It's an immense amount of dirt to be hauled. This is being proposed to be hauled down roads that are narrow, with hairpin turns, and current significant traffic due to ongoing construction. Right now there's about 3 projects on this road. Large-scale projects. These are not 2,000 square foot houses. The parking for these projects is currently on the road, which makes these roads impassable to 2 people side by side. Currently, what they have are flagmen. Some of these flagmen work for one company. Some of these flagmen work for other companies. So sometimes you'll just be sitting there waiting to go down, which everybody can understand a little bit of traffic delay when people are doing construction. No one has any problem with that. But what they're proposing is 39,805 cubic yards to be moved. Now, to do that, they're talking about 10-yard trucks, okay? So that can only take 10 yards at a time. So what we're talking about is 6,634 ups and downs of just the dirt removal on these streets. This effectively makes these streets impassable. This is the only means of ingress and egress for most of these residents here. Now, what we request is that they put forward a feasible plan, because we think the current plan is not feasible, and here's why. They were approved for 79 days of hauling. Immediately after the meeting, Raymond Chan asked that we all go into a conference room and discuss this. We sat down, and the project manager said, yeah, there's absolutely no way I could possibly do this in 79 days. Minimum 100 plus, which we all said, yeah, that's the whole problem here, is there is no reasonable plan that's been put forth. We don't know how many trucks are going to be on the road. We don't know how many trucks per day. We don't know the time of each route. We don't know the number of simultaneous trucks on the roads, because, once again, once you have one truck on the road, it's impassable because of the other construction going on. Okay, and we believe that if they actually put this in front of the board, that they would have seen that this is a significant impact to the safety and the welfare of the residents on this road. God forbid a emergency vehicle need to come up when there are 2 dump trucks, stuck in some sort of a face-off on this road. It essentially makes it impassable, and we believe they erred on this, therefore we appealed it, and we would like it to go either A, back to them, or for the haul route to be denied outright.
Thank you.
These are, one more thing. These are signatures of some of the residents who are opposed to the haul route. I have one original and 2 copies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, as a representative of the applicant, Mark Ambrewster.
Jason, go first, then I'll follow.
Okay. Sorry, what's your name, sir?
Good afternoon, Chairman Uzar and committee members. My name is Jason Summers, President Crest Real Estate. I represent the owner, as does Mark Armbruster. This project is a project that was approved by the Department of Building and Safety for haul route and was appealed by one of the residents in the neighborhood. The haul route is something that's heard often. This is not the first project of this scope of cubic yardage that's been moved. We've reached out very, very aggressively to the community to make sure they've been a part of this process, and were able to express all of their concerns and give us every opportunity to feasibly make mitigation measures. We've done items such as we're originally, Building and Safety said we could do hauling Monday through Saturday, and we have limited that to Monday through Friday, limiting us one less day out of the week and restricted hours of 9 to 4. Additionally, we have gone down from larger scale trucks to a more minimum half the size truck to make the traffic down the street more probable. We've also implemented a traffic control system of 8 flag members. We had a meeting today with Principal Inspector Jeff Napier, who is the head of the inspectors for that area. He said that in his 17 years, he has not seen a project that has had this significant amount of community outreach, nor has he ever seen a traffic control system put in place to this extent. 90% of the route getting us down from our project site to to Sunset is actually fully no parking, so there won't be vehicles fighting against each other parked on the sides. At every turn where it needed to be, we've put 1 or even 2 flag members to make sure that the safety of the community is there, and because of this large project, we really wanted to go forward and do things above and beyond what was necessary. We've also looked into the feasibility of the 79 days, which is where we came up with our request, which was done with Building and Safety, which is based on a mathematical number of the trips, where if there's variables, that's part of the Building and Safety approval, where we're doing everything as fast as humanly possible, and the 79 days is fully feasible. Another thing that's really unique to our site is we're able to park most of our construction parking on our site, if not all, because of the 3 acres of the site and most of it being flat. We have also taken measures to make sure that the streets on our way down will be maintained to the current condition that they are now. We have no intent of building this house to this level of, the quality of this home and having to drive up through potholes. So what we're going to do is take videotape of the project site and street conditions along the haul route to ensure that throughout the process we're able to maintain that level of perfection of the streets. That's going to be readily available to the community. We are also going to post a bond with Building and Safety as part of our conditions to make sure that there's money in place for that. We've taken the concerns of the community very seriously, and we have the support of many members of the community in this project and many parts of council that we've reached out to, and we are really looking forward to having this be an efficient, effective process. Mark Armbruster is going to finish up. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. You have about a minute left.
I can do it. Mark Armbruster, Goldsmith, and Delbeck. We're asking you to obviously deny the appeal and uphold the well-thought-out determination of the Building and Safety Department and the Building and Safety Commission in approving this haul route. This is not about the size of this project. This project is a by-right project. It's fully in compliance with the baseline hillside ordinance, and so it's not about the size as the appellant had referenced. The appellant basically made 2 claims. One, they said Building and Safety and the appellant, or the applicant, messed up with the numbers and the numbers aren't right. Those numbers have been fully analyzed by Building and Safety staff, by Building and Safety Commission, by DOT, by Department of Street Services, and those numbers are right, and the number of days are correct for hauling. Secondly, his second basic argument was that it shuts off all means of access to the neighborhood, and therefore it endangers the public health, safety, and welfare. That is not true with the conditions of approval, which are extensive. Access is guaranteed. 8 flagmen we volunteered rather than 3 as required by the Building and Safety Department. All the parking and staging will be on site. Even though there has been construction fatigue up in the neighborhood, this project I think is going far and above all the others to make sure that it does not endanger the public safety, health, safety, and welfare, and thus we ask you to deny the appeal. Thanks.
Thank you. John Winfield. After John Winfield is Dr. Julie Golfar.
Yes. Good afternoon. I appreciate you allowing me to voice my concerns. I've been pro-development all my life. I've never objected to anything in our neighborhood. I've lived in this particular neighborhood for about 20 years, and I've never objected to anything. And I feel like in this situation, nobody was really notified on a route that leads to this development. At least none of my neighbors. I was not notified, and I'm extremely upset by it because I don't think anybody realizes the magnitude of the damage that this is going to create, both from an environmental and a value perspective. You just have to visit the neighborhood, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. The roads are very narrow, And when the information is so deceptive that I just can't imagine how they could pull this off. They're saying that they're going to take 40,000 yards of material out of this area. If you took that and you realized the magnitude of this development, it's probably the biggest development maybe in a Bel Air area that I think that has ever occurred. That development is so large that I could assure you they're going to have to travel for 4 to 5 years up and down the road, and every 7 minutes for every working day of the week for 4 to 5 years. And I don't think anybody realizes the magnitude of this project.
Thank you.
And I think it's very deceptive with the information that's been given. I just think there's a complete lack of transparency.
Excuse me,
So I'm just
Chairman
very
Huizar,
upset.
the speaker's gone over the time limit, so I think to be
I
fair.
apologize, but I've never aired my concerns in a project, so
Thank
this
you.
is pretty difficult for me.
Okay, you have here listed Dr. and Mrs. Frank Dulfour, but then you put parentheses Julie. I assume you want to speak.
Julie, yes, I'm
Okay.
an attorney. My husband's a doctor. I just put the two of us together. We are residents of Aroli Way. Aroli Way, I want you to understand, is only 5 homes, plus this proposed project. It is 250 feet approximately long. Our property is 120 to 150 of those feet. Every truck that would go up and down for the next 5 years would pass right by our property. So we're speaking in support of Mr. Rosen's appeal. We hope that you will not grant this permit. We feel that they've been duplicitous in their representations that they discussed fully with the residents. They did not discuss fully at all with the people that were most affected, i.e. the Aroli Way residents, as well as all of the residents along the Hall route. Everything has been done very quickly and starting at Christmas when many people were not available. Now, many of my neighbors that are on the Hall route have just learned of this, and they're extremely upset and feel that they did not get a chance to speak nor to be consulted. And the fact that they're saying that Bel Air Crest does not have anything to do with this, it is Bel Air and it is along principally one road. And so I would urge the commission or the council to grant the appeal and to deny this permit, because it has not been transparent and they have not been forthcoming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now from Council District 5, Noah Molstein. No, you're the last speaker, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman Huizar, Chairman Councilman Ringlander, and Councilmember Cedillo. My name is Noah Molstein. I'm the planning deputy for Councilman Paul Koretz. I represent this portion of the district. Before you today is, haul route determination for the project, located at 944 Arroyo Way. As we know, when it comes to single-family home construction in the hillside, it can be very difficult. Furthermore, when it comes to haul routes and large-scale size developments, which are more frequent in this area of the district, they can be very taxing on the surrounding neighborhood. But with that said, this is why we have haul route hearings, to identify the safest way, the safest and least impactful way to extract dirt out from the neighborhood. We have to understand that the applicant is not asking for any deviations from the code, but due to the 39,000 cubic yards of grading, it has triggered a haul route requirement. It is our office's understanding that DOT's report came back with time slots that allowed the applicant to work, more days, less hour type of schedule of hauling. But it was the consideration of the applicant to reach out to the community and consult with the neighbors multiple times in order to address all of their concerns. Their actions have been successful, as they've been able to come up with a consensus and agree to a 9-to-4 schedule, which has been adopted by Building and Safety Commission, with a no Saturday hauling schedule. Furthermore, the applicant has volunteered several conditions based on some of the individual concerns of the different neighbors in order to accommodate their concerns. For instance, they've incorporated instant videotaping of the haul route to identify, before and afters. Our office commends the applicant and their team for having gone above and beyond, the norm. Before I move forward, I just want to clarify that I had submitted some conditions. Some of those conditions actually have been put in by the Building and Safety Commission already, and I just would like to just clarify for you guys which one those are, and then there are also some conditions that our office would like to see incorporated. So if you want to start, the ones that have already been incorporated by the Building and Safety Commission where streets shall be cleared of all spilled materials during the grading and hauling and the termination of each workday. All truckloads shall be secured by trimming or water or may be covered to prevent spillage or blow of earth and material. Owner shall keep the construction area sufficiently dampened to control dust caused by grading and hauling, and at all times shall provide reasonable control of dust caused by wind and sole discretion of the grading inspector. Some of the and of course the 9 to 5 hauling with the 9 to 4 hauling schedule with no Saturday haulings. Some of the things if this committee sees fit, we and would like to. If this committee sees fit and recommends Building and Safety's approval, our office would like to see the following conditions incorporated, and that would be recommended by the Building and Safety Commission, a bi-weekly meeting with Jeff Napier, Building and Safety Director, District Director, Manager, to meet with the applicant and with the surrounding neighborhoods to discuss any concerns that arise during the hauling period. Contractor shall videotape, site and street conditions along the hauling route to ensure that the conditions along the route remain the same. There shall be 8 flag persons staged along the residential route, and that a 24-hour contact number be provided in case that there's any concerns or immediate emergencies that arise during the grading and hauling. And the building and safety. The building and safety conditions also incorporated that all staging of vehicles should be done on site. But we'd also like to add that all parking, which was not a requirement, but the fact that all parking also be put on site as well to clear up the way. Other than that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. So there were some conditions already in the approved report, and you added some conditions and we have the list here.
Correct.
Together, right? Okay, thank you.
Right, and I can make clarification on which ones were added in, and
okay. Ms. Janglander, you need to turn that on.
Just a quick question. So when you said it was headlights at 9, taillights at 4, so 9 to 4 are the hours. Is that 9 to 4? How long does it take to get from the base, if you will, the main street, to the top of the road, to the location? For one of these trucks.
Right, yeah, from the bottom all the way up to the top. From, I think, what I've heard, and I think someone from Building Safety maybe could correct me, Cora Johnson, if she's still here. I think it's 7 minutes.
Are they queuing at the bottom? Are they waiting at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning? Is it operational, meaning they're going to be driving up on the streets at 8:30, but they won't actually begin work until 9, or the last truck leaves at 4, which means how does that? What are the actual hours where trucks are allowed through the residential streets?
The hour, I mean, that they're allowed to then initiate onto residential. I mean, I would
versus beginning work at 9 a.m. at the location, which means they could be queuing up at 8 o'clock.
Right.
Is that correct? Or
from the way I understand it, I mean, I think they can be. I think the 9 to 4 is in regard to actually pulling away from the site and hauling. So I mean, and maybe Mr. Armbruster could address the actual technical queuing of each truck.
Outside of those hours of hauling, we also would not do staging down on Sunset Boulevard, staging there, waiting to come up. So the actual entire part of the hauling activity would be 9 to 4. as opposed to, getting ready and having a whole bunch of trucks lining up at 7
So
o'clock
no
in the
staging on
morning.
the streets, and they wouldn't leave the site at 4. They'd be off the site and off the residential streets at 4. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct. That was a big concern of a lot of the neighbors, and we wanted to make sure to address that.
Okay. And staff, again, just to conceptualize the trucks and what this actually means for a neighbor, or even if the applicant could answer these, approximately how many truck loads will be coming in and out of the site per day? And secondly, the widths of the streets in this neighborhood, do they pose any ingress and egress? If we have oversized trucks, will they be oversized trucks?
The 10-wheel dump trucks.
Pardon me?
The 10-wheel dump trucks that Street Services and DOT approved.
Yeah, the recommendation on the size of trucks originally in the building and safety report was the double dump trucks, but we agreed to do the smaller dump trucks, the single.
Single, okay.
Yes.
Now, the widths on the street, are these narrow streets going up?
Going up there. Yeah, they're relatively typical, relatively narrow hillside streets.
They're hillside streets, yeah.
Yeah, they're hillside streets, but that's why, there have been a lot of other construction projects up there doing the same thing. A couple of the neighbors have just finished, well-known celebrity just finished a 3-year project up there. And so it's all very doable. The question is managing the hauling so that you have the proper number of flagmen there to make sure you don't block access to other neighbors to the street, and so that they can communicate back and forth with each other. They've actually hired a expert hauling company that will coordinate, that is an expert in coordinating those activities on hillside streets like this so that we minimize any disruption.
So my original question, do you know approximately how many truckloads will go up and down the hill each day?
50.
50 up and down, okay. And the duration of this project is how long?
79 days for hauling.
79 days. You'll be hauling for 79 days.
79 days.
Okay.
I mean, the construction of this project will obviously take longer than that, but what you're hearing is about today is just the hauling.
Just the hauling is for 79 days. That's the only thing that's been before. Okay.
That's not necessarily consecutive, though. They could haul 10 days and then stop.
Okay. And why Saturdays? Why would Saturdays be a no hauling day?
The reason we did extensive outreach in the community, and a lot of the neighbors, one of the things that we heard was that they really wanted Saturdays off for hauling. And so even though that, potentially the hauling could be done in less time if you had Saturdays, it was more important to them not to have Saturdays. So we agreed to that.
Okay. So any other questions or comments? Well, your time is up, sir. Now we usually just, if we have any questions. Okay, let me ask you, if you have contradicting information, I'd like to hear it from you. Yes, okay.
Thank you very much for the extra time. Just one quick point. You hit the nail on the head. How many trucks? We don't know how many trucks. How long is it going to take to get up to the top? 7 minutes? That'd be a miracle. Okay, so first of all, the contradictory information, 80 hauling days, 79 hauling days, 50 trucks or 50 routes, that's 4,000 up and down. How are you going to move 39,805 cubic yards in trucks that only hold 10 in 4,000 routes? 4,000 times 10 is 4,000. Okay. It's going to be
Hey, sir, the discussion is here, and we're at the point of this committee where if anybody on this committee has questions, we answer the questions. So thank you for that question.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that answer. So with that, let me move that given the additional conditions as proposed by Council District 5, and the condition that I'm excited to see here is that there will be a bi-weekly meeting with the Building and Safety District Manager, the applicant, and the neighbors to review any concerns that may arise during the hauling of dirt. And I think that is a condition that I haven't seen in many of these, but it would be a good one for you guys to discuss any concerns that come up. We will move to deny the appeal with the conditions that have been presented today per Council District 5. And any other questions, comments?
You may wish also, Councilman, to adopt the findings that were included in the Building and Safety Report.
And to adopt the findings that were included in the Building and Safety Report.
Environmental clearance.
And the environmental clearance. And go Bears. Okay. Thank you. Any other objections to this? No objections, so ordered. Thank you. Madam Clerk, CLA, any other items?
Public comment, Councilman?
No public comment cards. That concludes this meeting. So ordered. Thank you.